Hey there, all you wonderful kids. Mr. Quentin here. Just wanted to go over our map presentation that we've been doing for the last day or so, just to make sure that you have this with some additional explanation in case you were not here or you need to review it. Just want to make sure you understand that a map is critically important to understand, and they have tons of information on them. And by virtue of having that information, you will be able to read them and know that what you read is applicable to lots of different types of maps. First thing you need to know is that maps always have a legend or a key. Those are designed to give you the clues or the answers you're going to need to be able to understand the symbols that are on a map. So if you look here towards the bottom of the left-hand side on this map, you'll see that there is a key available that tells you what the school looks like, the museum looks like, and the library looks like, among other things. That is what you are able to do with a key or legend. They are the same thing, they just have a different name. Next, to understand the orientation of your map, which way is north, which way is east, you need a compass on that map. It shows the direction. You'll see here there is a compass rose down here at the bottom. You'll notice that the blue points on the compass are the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. A good way to remember that is that there's a sports team out there called the Cardinals, and there's also just a bird called a cardinal, so you can remember that. A good mnemonic device for being able to remember the order is never eat soggy waffles. Perhaps maybe you're a Christmassy type person. You could go never enter Santa's workshop. Then we have the intermediate directions. These are the gold points on the compass: northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest. Those, you can remember the name of it being intermediate by simply remembering the fact that you go to Schindewolf Intermediate. Next, probably the most important thing that you can find on a map is the scale. If you look at this map that's here on the screen, you can see that from Genesee Avenue in LA all the way down to Carlsbad, California, seems to be about, 2 or 3 inches. Well, naturally, we know that Los Angeles and Carlsbad are not 2 inches apart. They're miles and miles apart. And that's what makes scale so important, so that you can determine exactly how far the distance really is. Here we have our scale listed as the points between, or the red line between the 2 points is 25 miles. So here you can break it down: 1, 2, 3, 4 lengths: 25, 50, 75, 100 miles. Scale helps you know how to calculate distance. Very important. And something that seems rather obvious, but is also critically important, is the title. The title of the map tells you what kind of map it is and what the map is about. For example, we can see here that it's pretty obvious that the title of the map is Florida and that it's a pictorial map. But the thing is that if we didn't know that it was Florida by the title, we may not be able to tell just by looking. Florida has a very unique shape as a state, but we don't get to see the entirety of Florida in this particular map. So it's important that we know we're looking at Florida. By understanding it as a pictorial map, we know that the pictures on there, the symbols, are also very important, and therefore we need to look at the key or legend to be able to understand it. We also have special kinds of maps. Once you understand that you have the title and the compass, the scale, all of these things are going to be important to understand what kind of map you're relating them to. Physical maps are maps that basically show what the Earth looks like from space. They, if you could imagine it that way, they're always kind of a top-down view from far away. They have things on there like the rivers and the mountains, oceans, lakes, things of that nature. They don't contain things like country lines and colors of things or cities and stuff like that. They are here to give you an idea of what the Earth would look like if you were looking at it down from space. A particular kind of physical map here that you can see would be this is the map of the United States. You'll see that it was shaded a little bit to help you find the United States, but beyond that, you can see how it's physical. There's no lines that tell you anything that, like, you can't find Colorado and Utah necessarily on this map, much less exactly where they touch, because there's no lines. But you can see the mountainous region of the United States. You can see the Pacific Northwest and its very forested region. You can see the Great Lakes of the United States. These are all physical features. All of the other divisions are created by people. Here we have a physical map of Europe. And again, very difficult to tell if you don't already know what Europe looks like from a physical standpoint. Political maps, on the other hand, they show how we have impacted the landscape because we determine what they look like. They have all of the city names on there, states and capitals. They'll have colors and lines to show the boundaries. Here on this map, you can see that there are now lines drawn, and now you can see where Colorado and Utah are and where the line of where they meet. That's the difference in political maps. The thing about political maps is that they change frequently based on what happens in the world. Most often, it is governmental, ethnic conflict, or wars that change what a map looks like. But once they change, we have to redraw them. This is why we could look at a map from even, while this slide says 50 years ago, you could even go back 30 years ago and it would not be accurate anymore because somewhere like Russia used to be called the USSR. And now, because it's an entirely different country with an entirely different government, we go by Russia. So here's an example of a political map. It is one that is of the United States, and now you can see all the colors to help delineate. You can see the major cities and capitals, and you can see the borders. Here we have one for the world map. And again, you can see how all these different colors help us to understand that we're looking at different places. If we were to go to Brazil, it wouldn't really be yellow. Going to the thematic maps, they show specific types of information. Information that's really important to know here would be, for example, looking at this historical map of governor's offices back in 2007, we would be able to see that Texas has a Republican governor and Louisiana has a Democratic governor. How do we know that? Because we're using the key or the legend of this map. But we don't, for example, know how many people live in Texas by looking at this map. We couldn't find Boise, Idaho on this map because that's not what this map is telling us. The theme of this map is to help us understand governor's offices back in 2007. They also contain many, many different kinds of information: population, resources, languages, climate, how much rainfall or precipitation. This particular map from 1999 shows the new businesses that were opened that year. And you can see, for example, here in Nevada, in this one little section, according to our key, 0 businesses were opened. But here in Houston, we can take a look at these counties in Houston and see that over 7,000 businesses were open. But again, we still don't know how many people live in Texas or even how many people were in Nevada. Not that kind of a map. It's a thematic map. You can also see here the average rainfall in California. Here's our title that tells us what kind of map we're looking at and where. Here is our key or legend that tells us how to read the symbols and information on the map. And here is our scale. All things that help us to be able to read this map better. You could look at things like vegetation in Australia. You can also look at how languages are broken down. So you can see here that according to this map, English is primarily spoken here. Spanish is primarily spoken throughout South America and Central America. And also you can see here how Arabic is in the top portion of Africa. These are just different ways that you can use maps to help you understand things better.